host, Tony Howard with Astrology University here, and I'd like to invite you to join us this weekend for a new summit called the Fresh Voices in Astrology Summit. It'll be July 21st and 22nd, 2 full days, 13 astrologers, and I hope you can tune in. And I have Saffron Rossi here today, one of our speakers. Hey, Saffron.
Hi, Tony.
And Saffron's going to tell us a little bit about what she's going to share for you this weekend. So maybe if you could just start by telling folks what your approach is to astrology and where you're from.
Yeah, so I would say that my approach to astrology is from the archetypal and psychological fields, working with astrology as symbolic metaphors for our psychological experiences, both conscious and unconscious. And so it really draws on the work of Carl Jung and James Hillman and Liz Green and all the other individuals that explore from different perspectives the way that we make meaning in life and how we engage with the imagination through symbolic, mythopoetic, and metaphorical language and images.
Beautiful, beautiful. And where are you from?
Well, I'm from New York City, but I've been in California on the West Coast for 15 years now.
Oh, wow. Right. And
Yeah.
you're teaching there, right?
I do. So I'm faculty at Pacifica Graduate Institute, which is in Santa Barbara, and I teach in the Jungian and Archetypal Studies Master's and PhD program.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no small feat. So what a great position. I mean, it just must be really fulfilling and interesting, always interesting. Cool. Well, you're going to be giving us a presentation called Waves Become Wings, Neptune, Betrayal, and the Myth of Ariadne. So that's quite a mouthful. So maybe you can just tell folks a little bit about what you're going to be sharing with us this weekend.
Yeah, so my talk is going to be exploring the astrological planet of Neptune through the myth of Ariadne and Theseus, which many people know because Ariadne was the half-sister to the Minotaur who lived in the labyrinth that Theseus comes and slays. And that's actually been a myth that a lot of people have been talking about recently because of Uranus ingressing into Taurus.
All right. I was just thinking that as soon as you said it. So
yeah. But I'm actually going to be talking about it in very different ways because my focus is looking at the story of Ariadne and what happens when she meets Theseus and then leaves Crete with Theseus only to be abandoned. And then, of course, found by the god Dionysus, who they end up marrying. But tracking Ariadne's story in order to explore the psychology of betrayal and the way that that seems to be intertwined with Neptunian experiences. I mean, Neptune is a transpersonal planet and has vast associations that are related to both natal placements and transits, but I think betrayal is one of them, and I'm very interested in the way where Neptune shows up in our birth chart happens to be a house, a field of experience where we experience different kinds of betrayal. So trying to explore that imaginally through the myth of Ariadne so that we can kind of come into a deeper relationship with Neptunian experiences and like what that can possibly lead to or suggest in terms of the nature of our experience and sort of maturity and initiation into different parts of life. So,
wow, that's really good stuff there. And here I thought that maybe it was just because my Neptune is in Scorpio, but now I'll have to reframe it to just maybe it's just the Neptune.
I think so.
I understand the betrayal part for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have Neptune in Sag, and so you'd think, well, that's
Yeah.
wonderful, but and it is, and I think, but I think that there's something about Neptune's. I mean, and this is what I'm going to be talking a little bit more deeply about on Sunday, is that Neptune is related to a kind of primal trust, this desire for return or to be joined in union with a kind of primary source of life or oneness. That's why it has so many connections to spirituality and religious experience. But psychologically, where we trust is actually also where we're betrayed. They come together. So those are some of the ideas that I want to unpack, looking at particularly the work of James Hillman, the archetypal psychologist, and then this myth and what happens to Ariadne and how we can imagine into the mythic moments as being psychological moments. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm totally looking forward to that, and I know other people are too. One last thing before we go, we were just chatting before we started recording about this part of the title of your lecture, Waves Become Wings, because some folks might not know that that's a reference to a song. So maybe you can just give people a little bit of context for that and where that came from. We were just talking about, for me personally, that was a really formative piece of music when I was a teenager. I was a piece of music that came out when I was like 14, actually. So, dating myself, but yeah, really beautiful, haunting piece of music, like you said. So maybe you can just tell people a little bit about that title and why you attached it here.
Yeah, so it's a song by the band This Mortal Coil, sort of early. I mean, would you say they were goth? I mean, not really, but kind of in a way.
They were. There was definitely gray area there.
Yeah.
All the goth people liked that album. It was
right.
It's depressing.
Right. And that song, I think, it just has this really kind of a haunting a sense. And for me, it was like hearing as if they were trying to embody the sirens, this idea of the way that we are seduced by or called by voices that are beyond the human form. And so that, of course, has very strong, mythic sensibilities, how we're pulled beyond ourself into another experience, which is also very Neptunian. And then I think the whole particular connection for me with choosing waves become wings is the way in which Ariadne goes from being sort of caught in this very watery realm of betrayal and secrecy with the labyrinth and Theseus, and then through all of this kind of suffering and abandonment ends up sort of moving to a higher plane in the sense of finding Dionysus and being joined with someone who holds her in a much bigger way. And to me, that had that sort of feeling of waves becoming wings. It's like this somewhat of an ascent feeling. So just playing with some of those movements, I guess.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel like we should play that song for folks at the end of the end of the presentation.
Okay.
Or at least maybe we can give people a link to it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today, Saffron, and also for joining us this weekend on the summit. As you may have seen from the lineup, we have a really diverse set of speakers, both from their backgrounds and their approaches to astrology. So I'm really great to have this kind of mythic psychological approach represented. So if you'd like to tune in, folks, head over to freshvoicesinastrology.com. The summit's actually free for 2 days. So for each day's presentation will be free to watch for 24 hours. So all you have to do is head over to freshvoicesinastrology.com, pop in your email address, and you'll get the links in your inbox to with the viewing instructions. So I hope you can tune in. I hope you tune into Saffron's lecture, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. And thanks again for joining us, Saffron.
Thanks.
All right, take care, folks.